I wonder what this is I'm gonna break the internet here. That would be cool if everybody got notified. We're already getting an ad.
It's some intro music.
Oh, we're good. All right. We're live and it says Zoom on it. I don't really care. Cool. Let me pop this out. Welcome everyone. Let's see. No, for real. Pop out chat. That way we kind of have both and then kind of go from there. Probably won't be able to respond as much, but anyways. All right, guys, welcome. For those of you that got the link, you're on video, so you guys get to actually ask questions. And then I got Sydney here, who is the CEO of Core Medical Group, who I currently work with, who have been, I mean, absolutely just instrumental and life changing. And Josh actually is on with now. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to basically, from the time that I left the military, tell you my story, how I figured out HRT. I actually put this in my book, Excommunicated Warrior, which is right there. But I've been getting hit up. I share a lot of stuff about testosterone and HRT, but I've never really had the opportunity to have a group discussion about this. And I get a lot of DMs about it, and I've said a lot, but I still get hit up. So I wanted to create something to where I'm able to like save this, put it on YouTube, and to go from here. And to let you guys know, I've been on it for a very long time. I've been with Core since, I want to say, November, and right before I got with Core, I actually came off and we did this whole IVF process. So I kind of have an interesting story, actually, Josh, as well. You didn't do IVF, but a baby process.
Yes.
So where we did this, I came off and went crashed and burned and then had to rebuild. And we've both been through that. And then come to find out, I didn't have to do any of that. If I would have just talked to Sydney Gordon and the guys at Core, I could have done it the Vince Vargas way and been healthy the whole time and not want to just jump off a bridge. So here we go. All right. So I left, my last deployment actually was with Josh. We were in northern Afghanistan doing VSO work and whatnot. And I left the military in 2012. So when I left the military, I had a hard crash. I mean, I wrote a whole book about it, but I was depressed. I started having weight gain around my waist that had never been there. Granted, I'm 31, 32 at the time, so obviously things start to change, right, in your 30s. But I didn't feel like me. And I'm going to be brutally honest with everyone. My sexual appetite kind of crashed. I did not have any sort of ED situation. Well, actually, that's not true. Sydney fixed me on that. Not a physical ED problem, but I did not have just the desire. Like, it just wasn't there. I didn't really care about that, which obviously, if anybody that's in a relationship, your lack of sexual appetite is a problem within a relationship. So that was going on. I was gaining weight. My diet was what it used to be in my 20s. So I didn't expect to gain weight like that. My recovery was in the crapper. My sleep was in the crapper. And I just thought this started to be a kind of a veteran issue, kind of like me leaving the military, and that, I'm coming off of
Byproduct.
It's a byproduct of all of the veteran, stereotypical things that were going on. And about a year into, just feeling like absolute crap, a friend of mine said, "Hey man, like," and he was a civilian. He was a civilian who he was in his 40s, and he was on HRT, and he said, "Have you ever had your testosterone checked?" And this is something that had never happened in the military. Now, I think this should change. I think this is the thing that should, especially in kind of the higher end units of the military, I think this should be something that's getting monitored. But no, I had never had my levels checked. I had never had my testosterone checked or anything checked other than your normal cholesterol and whatnot that they do on a lab. So when it came back, I was, let me see, I joined 18, got out 12 years. That's what, 31? So when we got back from
depending on your birthday, but
yeah, I think I was 31 years old. So I'm 31-year-old fit male, and I had a 195. Now they will tell you that there's a range, and I don't know exactly. Sydney, you can pop on. I think it's like mid 200s to 800 is a range, right?
So depending on the lab, your range can be anywhere between 200 and 1100.
What they consider normal is what I'm saying.
Yep. So they don't take into consideration your age bracket,
right,
or anything you've been through in your life. So it's just like, okay, you're within 200 to 1100. You're
normal.
Doctors are starting to get more involved when they see you around 300.
Yeah.
The reality of it is, in your 30s, you should still be around 700, 600. And if you're not, we put you optimal. We're not scared between 900 and 1,000. We pin you there.
Yeah. So I was on the lower end of it, and a normal doctor would have said, the VA actually, I'll tell you this, the VA actually said, well, you're normal. You're completely like, there should be no issues, whatever. And I'm like, I find this doctor that my friend recommended in Kansas City. And he's like, yeah, if I wasn't on HRT, you have the testosterone levels of a 72-year-old man. You're 31 years old. There's no reason for you to do this. Right. So, I start with him, and immediately, I mean, I'm talking within a couple weeks, my whole life has changed. I have a drive, and I'm not talking about sexual drive. I'm talking about a life purpose. So what he did at the time was he put me on testosterone. This is all stuff that I had to pay for. Okay. I had to pay for this because the VA would not give it to me. And then we'll get into the VA here in a little bit. So he put me on testosterone. He put me on HCG, which don't yell at me, Sid. Human gluconic hormone. So basically, what HCG does is it helps with testicular atrophy because you're giving yourself synthetic testosterone. So it drops your natural what natural production you actually have. It drops a little bit, so it keeps you healthy in that department. And then an anti-E drug at the time was anastrozole.
If I'm saying that right,
yeah, anastrozole. There we go.
Sorry.
So there's the package. Now here's what the VA will do. The VA will give, if you hammer them enough, they will give you this much testosterone for this much period, and that is it. They will not give you an entire package. They're going to treat one little symptom without giving you the full package, which really only long-term messes you up even more.
It's not a long-term sustainable approach.
Yeah, and they don't look at it as a long-term sustainable approach. They look at it as a Band-Aid that you're going to give you and then go from them. And as I got smarter in this arena, I was like, and I was working with the doctors, I was like, I don't want to do this to my body. I don't want to yin yang myself. I want to get my levels to where they need to be so that I can be the best human being version of myself. So when I got on this, fat started to come off. My drive, and I will tell you this right now, my drive went through the roof as far as my business. And before, I just felt like, and I can't wait to talk to have him tell his story. Before, I just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. I just wanted to do nothing. And people people are like, oh, it's post-traumatic stress, it's depressing, it's all these things. My hormones were out of whack. I was completely out of whack. I had no drive. I had no drive to live life. And that's what started to change. And then my business started to go up. My ideas started to happen. And then honestly, it led me to where I'm at today. If I didn't go on HRT, there's no freaking way I would have accomplished all the things that I would have accomplished. So that started happening, and I stayed on there for a long time, and things constantly progressed. Okay. So we'll fast forward to me wanting to have a baby. So we went to, I let the doc know, and this is nothing bad on him, but I let him know. And typically the old adage is you have to come off testosterone. You have to come off testosterone to get your natural production of semen to come back so you can have a baby. Now, I had a vasectomy in 2007. So having a natural birth for me was not natural. Sydney, you're unmuted. Do you want to hop in and say something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to back up real quick. I've had a lot of experience with the VA. My uncle, as you know, was in the Marines for a while, and still over there in Beaufort. And he went on HRT with the VA. And just so everyone can kind of recognize what's going on there, it's 1.75 cc's to 1 cc every 14 days is what they prescribe, typically without any estrogen blockers or without any HCG. So unfortunately, that's actually worse for you to do than it is to go on the medication.
And that's what they did for my dad too. They put him on that, and he feels good for a little bit, and then he feels like shit.
Yeah, so you're getting these peaks and valleys. And then what's also happening there is that your body isn't having to work as hard for certain things, and then it kind of goes away. So your body has to kick back in. It's a roller coaster ride back and forth, right? So that consistent level, personally, our favorite approach is a half a cc twice a week to really keep that even plane, not even hitting yourself with 1 cc at a time depending on how you metabolize. 7 out of 10 people, that's the best way to go typically, depending on how you metabolize. So with that being said, and just wanted to back up on that. And then the other thing, as far as childbirth, there's so many other options rather than coming off of testosterone to be able to have a kid.
Don't steal my thunder. I'm getting there. There. I'll bring you a sad. I got to tell my sad story first. Don't steal my sad story. Said, all right. So we decide that me and Miss Capper are going to have a baby. This guy right here is stoked because he just did the same thing. So at 38 years old, I'm going to hit the reset button. I have an 18-year-old and about to be a 14-year-old. So I'm hitting a full reset button, and we're going to try to have a kid. Because of that, I have to have IVF. So I completely come off testosterone, completely. And I'm talking cold turkey, nothing, no HCG, no anti-E, no anything. I just go cold. And I'll tell you right now, I'm pretty sure it almost ruined my marriage. I prepared her because I knew what I felt like before. So I prepared her for what it was going to be like with me coming off. Now, I'm going to segue into something else so I can explain this. So when I got out, I went through a brain clinic in Texas, and it was an inpatient brain clinic. It was a TBI clinic, and I spent 2 weeks in Dallas, Texas at this brain clinic. Radically changed my life. One of the big things that Dr. Kagan Randall was a big component of was HRT with veterans and special operations guys, getting their hormones back on whack, especially, and Sid, I'll let you talk about this here in a second, about damage to the brain. And he asked me something really interesting, and he goes, and this is like, we're going to get real here. He goes, how is the quality of your orgasms? When you have an orgasm, is it a very good orgasm, or is it kind of just like coughing dust? Is it strong? Does it feel good? Do you feel like you just should beat your chest and call your friend and be like, you're never going to believe what just happened and what I just pulled off? Or is it just kind of like, meh, and then you move on about your day? And I was like, I'm young. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know how to answer this. And nonetheless, I answered the question, and I said, why did you ask that? And he said, because of your luteinizing hormone. And he said, your luteinizing hormone is low, and that tells me that your actual endocrine system, because of this TBI, had been damaged. And I said, and I go back to, and this is for any veteran listening to this on YouTube or Zoom or whatever, or anybody really with a prolonged kind of smash. I asked him, and I said, well, I was never in a vehicle directly that got blown up. All right. There was a couple things that happened. Me and this guy once shot 24 AT4s back to back, which I think the Army TM is like one every 24 hours or something stupid. So we thought that was a good idea. So we PSO'd. He took half and I took half. Afterwards, my insides felt like jelly, and I was super nauseous, and everything was vibrating for about 2 days.
I don't know, it was terrible.
It was horrible. It was one of the worst feelings. So we did that. He goes, how many flashbangs have gone off by your feet? I'm like, I don't fucking know. Are you kidding me? Like thousands, hundreds, thousands. He said, how many parachute openings have you had? How many breaches have you done? How many hard landings have you taken? How many, how many times you've been in a Humvee with 50 cal going off in the turret? And I'm like, Doc, he's like, you're being stupid. And he's like, that's my point, is you've lived this life for 12 years. You've lived this life for 12 years. Yes, you might have not got rocketed out of a Humvee, but all this is trauma on your brain. Your brain sits in fluid. It's not connecting anything in your brain. And that brain's getting knocked around. And that is going to have an effect on the glands in your brain over a period of time. And this is the reason why we see this rampant in the veteran community, especially in the combat arms MOS. So this is the reason why he's taking me down the road of my luteinizing hormone. And I said, so something is damaged. He's like, yes, it is. He said, it's okay, but you need to be prepared that you're going to be on HRT for the rest of your life, because you have an actual damaged brain. Okay. And so that leads me back to I'm coming off, and I know what's going to happen. My wife was not with me when I was off testosterone. So I'm trying to give her a warning of the sad sack of shit that I'm going to turn into for a few months. And we were told that it was going to be 4 months. It turned out to be 8 months. Anyways, so I did that. We had the surgery. We did the IVF process. It came good. One of the biggest things that helped this guy, I finally called him. Do you remember me calling you? That when I called you, I was like, dude, how did you do this? Because I'm super freaking struggling.
Yes.
I'm like, my relationship's struggling. I can't work. I'm having I'm like, I was falling apart, guys.
So I was at the same point.
Yeah. Well, you had X amount before. So nonetheless, I called him. One of the biggest things, he immediately was like, have you been taking your vitamins? Are you taking vitamin D? And I said, no. He immediately got on, ordered me some very high quality vitamin D supplements and sent it to me. I think it was like next day. And that was a huge help. Okay. So that's one thing. So across the nation, we're all not all, but majority of people are vitamin D deficient. So that was a huge help for me personally. Now here's where I'm going to bring Sid in for a second. I hit up, after this is all done, we were successful, 8 months off T. Right at the end, when we did the consult for the surgery that I had to have, because they went in, cut my sac open, and then just slaughtered me. Look at this guy. I mean, they just slaughtered me down there, but they got 2 million sperm. So we were successful, and we went from there, and then had to recover from that. And once, man, I tell you what, I had a bottle of tests sitting on the shelf ready to go. As soon as we got the call from the IVF doctor, like, yep, we got 2 million sperm. I was like, everywhere, just get it back. And I felt better that way. Here's what's sad is that all of that headache, all of that feeling that way did not have to go. My buddy Vince Vargas, who's on with Core as well, did not have to do what he did, and did not have to do what Josh did as well. Sid, do you mind hopping on and talking about actual fertility protocol for somebody who's on HRT?
So I've had So I'm like Nick, where I have a 21-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I'm Nick. I'm 41, Nick. So slow down over there with your horror story or whatever the story is. Whatever, you know. But so I have a lot of gratitude for that because, you know, the hormones have made me like a 21-year-old dad. You know what I mean? I still have all the energy in the world. I have the ability to go. And so I feel great being a 41-year-old dad again. So the protocols are pretty simple. Typically, 90% of our patients are on a cc of testosterone. They call up, they say they want to have a baby and they want to conceive. And, you know, typically we start off right there. We're just having them increase their HCG dose dramatically. Now it's a little different with the vasectomy in place, but, you know, so we'll increase that HCG dose from 25 units, 250 IUs to 500, and then 1,000, 40 minutes before intercourse. 90% of the time, Vincent, that works. You know, that's what we did with Vinny, and he was good to go in like 2 weeks.
Right.
Other side,
Right. That's beautiful though. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
yeah. So he's a lot more chill than we are, though. So you know, he was probably owed that. But amazing guy, yeah. So he was good to go. Never came off. I think he only went down to 150 milligrams. So we teeter-tot how the whole thing plays out. So we keep your 200, increase your HCG, and then we slowly start to decrease your testosterone and keep increasing that HCG until you achieve your goal. So it really works. Now, there are situations, guys, to where we have to end up doing, you know, what Nick had to do, but I mean, it's under that 2 percentile. So yeah, and unfortunately, you know, for these doctors that are specialized in getting people pregnant, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of money involved. If you ask Nick how much money he spent, it was probably a lot of money. My business partner, by the time it was all said and done, $21,000. I mean, it was a lot of money. So you have to keep in mind, whenever there's a lot of money involved, you need to get
what we do for our kids, right?
Exactly right. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that one. I hope that covered it.
Yeah, thanks. The whole point is like that we're smart enough and we have the science and we have the people that give a shit enough to actually do the research and to help people that want to do it. So I never want to go through any of that. Once I came back on though, and I got on with Core, like even better than it was before. I mean, with them now, it's like at my age, it's like, for my age and for me and my lifestyle, how do I operate at my peak performance, like where I'm supposed to be at 38 years old and my lifestyle and the things that I want to do. I mean, I want to do BJJ 5 times a day. I want to still lift weights. I want to play with my kids. I want to chase my newborn son that's coming. These are the things that are important to me now. I'm not trying to go fight a war anymore. Maybe the government on some things, but we'll leave that for another video. But that's what they've done for me now. So, you know, the whole point of this conversation is that education and go from there. So, I'm going to turn, before we open to questions, I want Josh to kind of echo me in some of it, kind of his same story of kind of what he went through.
Yeah. So, like Nick said, you know, we kind of started, our stories similarly aligned. You know, we were in the military, in the Marine Corps together, and then we found each other on a team. Yeah, man, those AT4s were not fucking cool at all. It was a fun shoot. It was something that needed to be done, but I surely shouldn't have been the one sitting on the line for that whole time. No. But that wasn't the first time that I had done that.
No, right.
Previously, you know, years before, I was at a place doing a lot of instruction for some people, and I had shot 50 to 60 a day for almost a week straight, PSO. So I'm the guy who's sitting next to the guy who's shooting 50 or 60 rounds for a week. That's 300-400 rounds or something like that of 18-4s in a week. But you just kind of charge on through because that's what you're doing. And it's not really the smartest thing. I've been in a few explosions, some rollovers, and some pretty shitty events. But then ultimately what ended up happening, which ended up being my exfil into medical retirement out of the military, was after our last deployment together. probably 3 months, I think it was, we got back from deployment. So I as personally as a human being hadn't even really buffed out myself after that deployment. Right. So, any of you that have ever been on deployment that are watching this, there's some off ramping time that things take effect. Just personal thoughts, emotions, physically, there's a lot of things that happen on deployment that you kind of need to address thereafter.
Process.
Yeah. And, and then get back in the groove and then, restart the whole process all over again. So 4 months about after that, what ended up being that last deployment, I went through a short course of jump school out in San Diego. And it was, I think, the third jump of the day. Some of my memory gets a little bit fuzzy, but friends of mine that were with me kind of helped me plug it in. So on that jump, it was a static line jump. So static line, you're hooked up to the inside of the airplane with a cable. And you basically have a line that when you jump out, the line automatically pulls your chute, and then, it inflates or implodes your chute. And then you are supposed to very gently and nicely just kind of fall back down to earth. That third jump did not go that way. What ended up happening is we were in a really small plane, those Casas.
Yeah.
Casas, something like that, right? So in a real small plane, it was pretty turbulent, but it was time to jump, trying to make that money. And when I went to jump, I had 1 foot still on the platform and 1 foot off. Now, there's a fraction of a second of time that this even happens because you're jumping out of the plane. So as I'm jumping out of the plane, the 1 foot that's still on the deck, we hit a big air pocket. The plane, jostles upwards, and I got thrown into, from what they told me, the roof of the plane. I had a cord wrapped around my neck and then a cord wrapped around my left leg. One around my neck, thankfully, didn't stay attached very long. Otherwise, it probably would have decapitated me. But it did leave some damage up in here. The one that was around my left leg, it broke the femur in half and then shot the femur out the back of my leg, roughly 2.5, 3 inches, somewhere in that region. And then I got sucked out the plane like I was supposed to, and I regained consciousness
In air.
So basically,
luckily the freaking thing opened.
Yeah. So thankfully, I went where I was supposed to go. So I got, pulled out of the plane, like where I was supposed to go after all that had happened. And I regained consciousness once my chute caught lift. So there's a big jostle that happens when you catch lift. And I was still holding my reserve, and I knew something was going on. And so anyways, I ended up having open femur fracture. And then upon landing, I had some massive nerve damage. Pretty much everything in my right shoulder got blown out. My head got knocked around, obviously, inside that plane. Pretty good TBI, what they found out thereafter. So that was my very synopsis of some of the injuries that I've had over a 13-year career. So coming out, Nick had already been through the talk that he had just talked about with the friend of ours about HRT. And, he was kind of pumping me with it, trying to talk to me about it, before I got out.
I wish we could have taken your levels immediately after that crash.
That's something I wish I would have known, and kind of just periodically, done the 6-month checkups and see, was I getting better? Was I getting worse? Was I sustaining, to understand what was happening to me internally as a human being. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he's talking about testosterone replacement, or at least going to get lab work done to get an understanding of where I sit. If anything, you sit just fine and you don't need it. And maybe there's some other areas that, a doctor can help you out in. So as a good friend, I did not listen, to be quite honest. I was in a phase at that time where I had already, I look back, this is the way I look back at it now. I felt like I had already been through a lot of shit. I had faced a lot of shit. I'd been through a lot of shit, and I was kind of positively coming out of it on the backside. I had a job when I got out, and I just wasn't ready to face something else that was this big of a hit. And to me, it was an ego hit, to be quite honest. I wasn't egocentrically ready to receive the information that I might have low T. Even though it wasn't my fault, I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't ready to receive the information. So I just was like, yeah, sounds great. And I didn't do it for a little bit. And then finally, I think it was maybe a year later, we went on a trip, got everything done, looked at the lab work. It came back and I was, I think, low 300s or something like that. Pretty severely low. And at that point, that had now been 3.5 years post injury, that I had been going through life and dealing with a whole lot of shit that I probably wouldn't have needed to go through. And he can attest to a lot of that stuff. Now, this wasn't extreme to the facts of, I wasn't beating anybody, I wasn't getting in like bar fights. It wasn't that.
It's your own life.
It was my own life that was just, it just kind of felt like I was hazily moving along. Even though I was moving along in a semi-decent direction, I just wasn't myself. So I finally, swallowed the pill and I said, okay, I'm going to go get it looked at. I got it looked at, talked to the doc, and doc prescribed me HRT, and I got an HRT. And then, whatever time frame was, I really don't remember, to be quite honest, but it was a fairly short amount of time. All of a sudden, it just hit me one day where I was happy. And it was really fucking weird. It felt like I could have been skipping down the road, like holding my little girl's hands, and I would have been okay with it. Like I became almost reinvigorated, like the self that I perceived that I used to be. I was full of life. I was happy. My my framework was coming back, ideas, thoughts, emotions, were coming back. And I was just that better person that I always wanted to be. And then I really thought that I was before I got on HRT. I kind of was in this self-denial that, I'm doing good. But then once I got on HRT and I started to get my levels in my physiological state straightened out to where it should be, I was now operating really well. And then things in my life just all of a sudden started to,
and your income went up. That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah, things just kind of, I don't want to say started to fall into place, but everything that I thought I was working hard for or striving to do, it all just kind of, they met. And then they slowly just took an on-ramp in a positive direction. And that was going on. I came off once, and I had talked to Nick about it. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I ended up having a retinal detachment from probably all the shit that I just talked about.
But it's not linked. It's not linked, but his retina detached from his eyeball.
So I was going through some surgeries, and I blamed it on some stuff as far as I was going through another shitty thing in my life. And I wasn't a negative Nancy by no means. I'm not a Debbie Downer. I'm not a negative person, but it was just, I was facing this new thing in my life that I was having surgeries of not being able to see, trying to get my eyesight back. And I went off HRT for a couple months. That's completely self-induced, my own stupidity. But what I ended up realizing was that in those couple month time period is I went back to that person of who I was before getting on HRT. And I saw it.
I came out to Hawaii.
He saw it.
Yeah.
Like in person, because I was living in Hawaii at the time. He was still living here. And my wife saw it. I'm pretty damn sure my kids saw it. And I just was like that weird person of myself again. So even though that was kind of a shitty experience, on the backside of it, I view it to be a fairly positive experience because I was able to see, no shit, for real,
the difference,
how much better and how more effective I was as a human being when my stuff was aligned appropriately and effectively to where it should be. So I could just be a good person.
Yeah.
Anyways, went back on HRT, and then we decided to have a third kid. So that was the journey, kind of like Nick just talked about. It was that journey of like, okay, so we talked to the doc. And then as far as, I have nothing bad to say, about that doctor. It was just the way that his protocols were put in place.
You don't know what you don't know.
And, I obliged, and, we wanted to have this child. And my biggest question was, how long is it going to be? This is before his. So I said, how long is it going to be? Because I knew when I was off it already for 3 months, the downward spiral that I kind of started to go into again. So I wanted to prep myself. I wanted to prep my wife, so I could attempt to mitigate it as much as possible. And It was a long 3 months, and I think I was getting into the 4th month. We were just about to go on a trip for some strength conditioning stuff, and I was actually on HCG from the doc. And I remember sitting there, and I was taking a shot of HCG, and I was to the point where I can admit it because I've talked to her about it. As I just looked at her and I said, "Babe, we're gonna have to figure out something else. Like, I must be shooting blanks. You know, something must be going wrong here. I got to talk to the doc. Maybe I need to get a sperm count because I don't know how much longer I can go through this of not feeling like the person that I feel like and I know I should be." And that was the moment that she took a 15-second turn, went to the closet, came out with a little bag and said, we're pregnant. We're pregnant. So she was trying to alleviate some of my frustration. But so I felt the ups and downs, both purposely, you know, for a child. And then, well, I guess the other one was purposeful as well, but it was reflective. So anyway, since then, been back on HRT. I got with CormEd finally. I don't know, a month ago, maybe something like that. But I hit the road traveling full time in an Airstream. So it's been interesting, but I got on with them. And the reason that I got on with them was not just because, you know, Nick's my friend, but I mean, to be honest, looking at the company, you know, and looking at the people, and then knowing that, you know, what their approach is and everything that he had just talked about, is that they're in it for you as the individual, as a person. You know, it's not a blanket statement that they're just arbitrarily doing it for everybody. It's defined for your needs, you know, what you desire and what they optimally know and where you should be as an individual. And that's the route that I've now chosen.
So go ahead, Sydney.
I just wanted to touch base. You know, I get like, it's funny. People are like, you know, they call me up and they're like, well, I don't know they're like 7 weeks into HRT and they'll call up. Right. And they'll be like, I don't know if this stuff's working. And I'm like, all right, just come off of it. I'll send you your money back, brother. You know, and then sure enough, oh man, I didn't realize how bad I was. You know, yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, that stuff works for everybody. I've had maybe 1 or 2 cases. And the other thing too, you know, what Josh was just saying, I got like the goosebumps, you know, kind of, cause you know, you guys know how passionate I am about my business. And, you know, Josh, thanks for the kind words to me. I know we haven't had too much interaction, but super grateful. You know, one of my favorite things is that like, I'll be driving to work and my patients now, I'm not too interactive with now just cause we've grown so much. But when I first started, I'd have a huge patient book and my phone would ring at like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd put my Bluetooth on in the car and be this dude who's like 40 years old. And he'd be like, hey, Sid, are you by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm completely by myself, chilling. I think I told you this before.
I've had that conversation with you.
Dude, are you by yourself? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, why are you calling me at 7:30? Dude, I had to get out of the house. I'm like, why? He's like, dude, I woke up with an erection. And I'm like, great. Well, my wife would think it was weird. I'm like, you haven't told you're on HRT yet? Turn around and do your business. She's gonna think that's weird. And I'm like, dude, your wife's not gonna think that's weird. She's probably lying in bed with her eyes open, facing the other way, wondering when it's gonna happen again. Like, tell her what's up. You know what I mean? And it's when I first started this business 12 years ago, it would take me an hour to 2 hours to onboard a patient to educate them of what's going to happen. Right now, it's like, I want it, I need it, no education needed. I spend some time with the wives and things of that nature now because people still try to hide it from their significant other, which is just, to me, it's insane. Believe me, your wife is going to be a lot happier, like a lot happier. So yeah, that's kind of what kind of shot me back a little bit with that story from Josh over there. But yeah, man, it's pretty awesome.
So we've got a little bit of time. I want to answer one question. It was the first one was, what am I taking? So they have me on 200 milligrams of Test-C a week. I do 25, is it IUs, Sid? 25 IUs of HCG twice a week, right after the day after my shot.
Yep.
So if I do a shot, say I break mine up. So I have a shot on Sunday and Wednesday mornings, first thing in the mornings. The following, so Monday and Thursdays, I'd take my 0.35 of HCG, And then
And
I
that's
take
not
my,
for him to continue to be able to have a baby or anything like that. That's just to make sure he doesn't shut off the light in order for him to rebound. God forbid he has to come off testosterone for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We never shut that light out. It also keeps the volume of his sperm up, and it also keeps the atrophy from kicking in. So it's a lot of aesthetic involved. Some people don't care. They're like, I don't care how big my balls are. I don't care if I'm shooting water, and they don't want to take it. We really push it if you're under 50, because we've seen a lot of crazy things happen. Sorry.
and no, you're good. And then I take my anastrozole at the same time as my ACG. So the day after. So right after that. So that's my protocol. Now there's a bunch of other things, that I work with them on. I've taken, peptides for recovery. There's a lot of different other things for specific things. You guys have seen the results that I share. But that's as far as the HRT protocol, that's exactly what I'm on every single week. And it keeps me like this. And I feel freaking phenomenal. I can go in my BJJ gym and I can roll forever. 6-minute rounds, 30 seconds off. We can do it. And then while everybody else is like sweating and breathing and leaning against the wall, I'm like, you got one more? I was like, let's go one more. And then go from there. So that's it. I'm going to open for all the guys that are video.
We prescribe all brand testosterone as well too. It's not generic.
Yeah.
Which is also really important. Most HRT clinics, like mine, they do a generic testosterone, which is basically compounded in a big vat. And it's kind of like a bottle of Tabasco sauce, right? Sometimes you get one that's really hot and sometimes you don't. And we've all experienced that. So when you're taking testosterone, just, quickly, the way that it's audited essentially is that it can be within 40 milligrams of what it says on the bottle for generic testosterone. So you could be buying a 200 milligram bottle, and there can be legally down to 160 milligrams in that bottle. When you're buying brand, it's all compounded individually in 10 ml vials or 5 ml vials. That's why we go that route, because you're going to get a consistent dosing in each vial.
Anybody that's on the video here, or it doesn't have to be video, it could be voice, but I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions for Josh and I, or even Sydney. Now's your time. Don't be scared. If not, then we'll see. If not, then we'll go.
I think I'm going to actually jump in. This is Kaylin.
Hey.
There was a question that I think Sydney should answer from the chat. Sid, one of the questions that somebody asked is, what are some of like the long-term benefits or disadvantages of taking TRT long-term?
Great. So thanks, Kay. I appreciate that. So here's the deal. Nick and I have a very common phrase in place, and it's, get your blood work done. Don't commit to anything, get your blood work done. And that just doesn't go for the beginning stages of going on HRT. I have the luxury of doing my blood 3 to 4 times a year. I highly suggest it, especially for military, active duty or not, to at least go twice a year. Unfortunately, your chemistries are constantly changing, and it's a lot of work to keep up. And if we're not doing blood work, that's really where the issues come. We have a lot of patients that push back on blood work. Those aren't the patients that Core keeps on board. So be willing to do that blood work 1 to 2 a year minimum, sometimes 3 times. If we're monitoring your blood work, because we monitor your blood work so in depth, it's an 18 panel pull. We're checking everything that's going on. Anything that testosterone could counteract, we are monitoring very closely. So for instance, if you don't have a cholesterol issue, you go on testosterone, due to the binding proteins, your cholesterol can increase. Not, 1 out of every 5 people can have the issue. Now, we have all natural statins that we can use to counteract that. We can lower your dose. We can look at different things. But if you're not doing your blood work, that's where the issues can come into play. I have people that have been on HRT with me for 12 years. Before that, 10, 22 years. I've been on it for coming up on 24 due to some trauma that I had. I wasn't shooting off guns and stuff like that. When they were telling that story, I'm like, geez, can't hear for a day after I shoot my 300 Win Mag once at a deer, you know? But, and then I'm thinking about the one time I fell out of my tree stand, comparing it to the story of him flipping over in a Humvee and falling out of a plane, you know? But, hats off to you guys. But, yeah, so the blood work is key. You know, if you decide to go on black market testosterone, that's really where the stigma comes from of, oh my God, steroids. I'll tell you something else. If you don't go on it, there's some major repercussions. Number one, good luck staying in a relationship. Number two, our organs, our heart, it's all surrounded by muscle. As we get older, those atrophy. Testosterone minimize the amount of atrophy that we have at earlier stages in our life. Studies everywhere and across the board. Someone really famous said to me, who's I'm very close with, said, Sid, I don't care if this stuff kills me 10 years early, because the way I was before, I would never want to go back to it.
Nah.
So, and the reality of it is, if you're with someone who's really monitoring yourself, you're going to live longer, in my opinion, in a lot of the studies that I've read. But I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So that I'm going to answer, but you said you can follow me up. And so the next question is how much does it cost? With us? It's around $35 to $40 a week for the protocol. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's $199 to sign up. That covers your blood work, your video kind of chat like this, which is the telemedicine portal that we have, which is actually amazing. It's a great point of care. You do it from your home. You can meet with the clinicians as much as you want. There's no fees moving forward. So that's $199 up front. And then after that, it's between $35 and $40 per week. We do a 10-week protocol. So it's around $350 to $400 for 10 weeks of therapy. And it's, very, very cost effective. Anybody who comes aboard right now and basically mentions what we're, this Zoom conference right now, we can do like a Nick Zoom 1 code. We'll give you guys $50 off your sign up too.
Hear that. What was the other one?
I was just going to hit it real quick. I mean, the cost effectiveness versus not getting on it is the same thing that Sydney just said. I mean, like I've gone kind of down that road of, being off it and then being back on it, and whatever monetary amount that he's speaking about is pennies to the feeling of anguish that, I felt during the times that I was off. So it's not that expensive for the benefits that you're getting as a human being, and you never know where that is going to go, once you align yourself back to where you should be.
And you'll also be able to minimize your additional supplements as well as your pre-workouts and your coffee. You're going to, a lot of our patients take that, that pre-workout and drinking their coffee and their energy pills and this, that, and the other, and they go on therapy and that eliminates completely. So
that's what Mr. Hicks just said.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Owen, by the way. He's like, yeah, I spend more on energy drinks, and people do like if anybody and I did an article on this, and I'm about to get fired up because people talk like, well, I can't afford it. Well, stop buying Mocha Choca bullshits, cancel 47 of your online streaming things. Like, you're wasting money somewhere. I freaking guarantee it. So invest in yourself. Like, if all these things are just distractions, okay. And they're all distractions. So take your money and put it into something that's going to benefit your life, that you're going to get a return. And this is the businessman coming out of me, but you're going to get an ROI out of. Like, you're not getting an ROI out of a Mocha Choca bullshit. The only return of investment you're there is getting fat and looking like shit. So
it's going to add 2 or 3 hours to your day, energy wise. I mean, a lot of people are like, man, I went on therapy. I got a raise. I got a promotion. My business is expanding dramatically. I go into these major car dealerships down here in South Florida and basically say to the owner of the company, listen, give me your top 10 sales guys. I'm going to give you 10 weeks of TRT for free for all 10 people. You can have it. If your sales don't go up 5% on your Porsches, which is a shitload of money, don't ever call me again, but you lost nothing. But if it does, roll out a program for everybody. And that's what we do now.
And that's a fact. And I can say personally for me, as far as my pocket, as far as being a business owner, being on HRT and making sure that my hormone levels and my health is accurate and I'm in shape has 100% affected my bottom line in my business and the way that I work. There's no freaking way that I would have been able to accomplish what I would have accomplished in the time that I have And I don't even feel like I've accomplished that much. I'm on ramping. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's no way that I would have been able to do what I've done without being as healthy as I am and being on top of everything. There was I just saw one that I was wanting to.
Males only.
Yeah, read Mandy. She said, Nick and Josh, do you feel like HRT is helping you with memory issues from TBI?
100%, because you got to look at what happened when you had a TBI, and you have cell A, right, and cell B, and they're connected with H2O. Okay, so that link in between cell A and cell B in your brain is broken because of some sort of trauma that that's taken place. Okay, what this does is it creates new neural pathways. All right, and there's a lot of things that happen here, but HRT is one of them. There's a lot of cognitive things that happen, but if your hormones are off and your if your health is not on par, well, that's like step one, right? Like sleeping, eating. There's certain things that we hit, making sure our hormones are good. But now that we have the energy and the effort to put effort into other things, so 100%. Do I still forget stuff? Yeah, but that could be just because I'm a 38-year-old man, and I'm not with children. I'm not fully listening to my wife all the time. But 100% it does.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of spoke about it when I said, I was in a haze, or I just felt like I was drifting or gliding, through.
Slide that mic over.
And that's. I'm about to break this arm here. No, I kind of spoke about it real quick. I maybe breezed over it, but that was when I said that I was in like this fog or this state of haze, or I felt like I was doing all right, but I was just more or less like drifting through my life. As soon as I got on HRT, it didn't go away 100%, because like Nick said, there's other human factors that take a little bit of time, but it drastically reduced it. And not only drastically reducing that haze or that fog, but then when that haze and the fog when it started to clear, my ideas, my drive, my energy, my thought process just went like through the roof. Same thing when I went off. I went back to that haze point, so I was able to see it again, for myself. And then when I went back on again, things started to clear up. So I 100% believe that to be true, that my cognitive ability has gone back up, maybe not to where it was before, but there's also other injuries and stuff that some things might not be able to account for.
I wanted to, I lost it, but somebody was talking about, there she is. Somebody was talking about taking natural testosterone booster, or not natural, they're not natural, over the counter testosterone boosters from like GNC or some Test Booster 5000 or some BS. I'll tell you right now, these things will mess you up. And I don't even know how many, but I'm sure Sydney has worked with a lot of people that he's had to fix from doing this.
Yeah. So we actually work with quite a few people in the past, and that we've actually added that question onto our questionnaire. Have you taken testosterone boosters? Basically what that is it's a precursor of testosterone. It's something that's basically taking over synthetic delivery, but unfortunately it's not increasing your testosterone. It's wiping out your test and basically using a different delivery form in order to make you feel like you have testosterone. One of my guys who's been with me for 14 years, Matt Stevens, I've learned so much about this because before we were in this business, we were in the mortgage business actually together for a decade. And he was taking these pro hormones, from like, these small shops or whatever. He had jaundice, he had kidney failure, he had major liver issues, I'm talking 400 liver enzyme, and they should be around 30. So guys, these pro hormones, not to mention they're ridiculously expensive. They're really hard to rebound off of. And the crash is tremendous and the internal damage is terrible. So be very careful with these pre-hormones. You don't know what's in them. And, the supplement world is not monitored. There's no one monitoring the supplement world. You can put essentially whatever you want inside these bottles, and, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. If you're going to do a supplement, make sure was it BSCG certified?
NSF is one of them.
Yeah. So, and he's right. Like you can just go put flour and bullshit in there and sell it and make a ton of money, and people, and like testosterone 5,000.
Or
do
the
not.
opposite, like Blackstone Labs did, they had, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They were, they just got in a lot of trouble. They were putting Dianabol, D-ball inside their pre-workouts. So they got caught with an entire 18-wheeler. It's worth a Google, full of it. And, one of the old owners is a dear buddy of mine. He wasn't involved with the other guy. It was just a complete nightmare. And, they're in some deep crap, and they hurt a lot of 16-year-old kids who now are going to have to be on testosterone from 18 years old and risk, being able to have a child because of the long-term damage. It's crazy.
Yeah. What was the other one? Something about what about high estrogen? This is I actually just talked about this on my video, talking about my diet, and there's an estrogen dominance that's happening. So Josh and I also see clients. So we do a lot of weight loss stuff with people, military prep, weight loss, go
for it.
Hypertrophy. Thanks, Josh. So we all the kinds of different athletes. One of the things that we see in some of the younger individuals is that's kind of becoming more common is an estrogen dominance in men. And I can look at their progress photos, and I can look at them, and they have more of like an hourglass shape. They have a lot of weight around here. Their hips are getting wide. They've got bigger breast tissue. And it's not because of
the visceral hypogonadism, that's like the key right there.
So I'm looking at them and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I'm asking like, hey, have you ever been on anything? Have what's going on here? And I'm not leading them. I'm just asking what have they done to see where they're at. And it's our society. Our society has changed a lot to where the kind of foods that we're eating, the things that we're doing, the stuff that we're drinking out of, all are responding and giving a high estrogen level. So this is the reason why, like, I typically, I drink out of aluminum or cans, or Josh got me on the mason jars. So I drink out of glass. I don't warm my food up in plastic. I use the glass. There's a lot of little things that I do. I don't eat fake food at all. I don't do it. Because you don't know what's going into it, and they're pumping them full of garbage. And even for the meat eaters out there, if you're not getting organic grass-fed meat and you're buying it from Tyson's Chicken, you're thinking this is good, then what's going to happen is you're getting freaking hormones pumped into you. And this is now we're looking at like our children. You're looking at young men developing this, in their crucial years. So we're having a high estrogen. And Sydney's playing with his bow, but I want to turn it over. What are we doing with what do you do with someone who comes on like that? I mean, I know from a dietary perspective and a normal TRT, but like you get a guy that looks like that, hypergonadism, he looks like he's got, put a wig on him. He looks like he has a feminine body. From a clinic standpoint, how are you guys treating him?
So, estrogen dominance like a big thing right now, especially just like you said, the foods, Nick, you freaking nailed it, and if you guys really slow down and look too, you'll start seeing more and more obesity in children now, which obviously we're all noticing a lot of, right? And, sometimes it's not just because of the food, it's a genetic disorder that's being passed down now, because estrogen dominant is actually like a real thing. Which is crazy, but the first thing we're doing right now with someone like that is our main goal isn't the hormones right away. Our main goal is their overall health, dialing the cholesterol in, thyroid issues, liver enzymes, making sure their inner body's functioning as much as it possibly can without incorporating hormones immediately. So we want their overall health to be stabilized as much as possible, because what can happen with someone who's obese like that is we'll do blood work when they come through the door day one. They'll run therapy. If we give them therapy typically right away, with elevated enzymes in A1Cs through the roof. They haven't been on metformin, which is an amazing drug. We can talk about that at a different time. Their sugars are dramatic. And then we give them hormones, you know, where the next blood work typically isn't better. And our goal is to really dial in their overall health prior to giving them hormones. So when we will put them on the estrogen blockers, bring the levels down to the high teens or the 20s. And we're going to focus on, you know, really that overall health more than just the hormones coming through the gate, and then graduate them into that once their blood work and their overall health deserves it, actually.
And that's exactly what Josh and I do. We focus on diet, exercise, lifestyle first, you know, get that dialed in and then kind of go from there. That's perfect. One of the last things, one of the last things is I got it from both sides, is can someone benefit if they're in their late 50s, 60s to go on HRT? Yes, absolutely. Do you have anything to say about that, Sydney?
So our oldest patient, so people are like, how long can I stay on this for? And, you know, I hope that I can stay on it till I'm put in the ground, you know, that's the goal, right? Most patients dwindle off in their late 70s. I have one patient who's in better shape than 90% of the people I know. Yeah. And he's freaking 75 and uses the peptides. He does his blood work every month. He's very diligent. You're not going to find a guy like this, because the three components in my life are exercise, diet, hormones, which is my science, right? And those three pieces of the puzzle, I'm keeping a very close eye on. And this guy's so dialed in, it's frustrating. It's like, oh, I got to be home right now. I got to eat. I got to take my shot right now. I'm like, dude, you're 70. Enjoy life right now. You're a multimillionaire. Enjoy your life. But he just loves it. That's his lifestyle. A lot of people in their 60s and 70s take it. The protocols are a lot different. Okay. They're a lot different. You know, we start off with a half a cc, use a different type of estrogen blocker. HCG typically isn't in the picture. In their 70s, sometimes it is in their 60s. Some of the peptides we don't like to use as much in their 60s and 70s because it's increasing the cell regeneration in their body. You have to be careful with that as we get older. But, you know, other than that, yeah, man, bring it on.
I like that. Bring it on. Would you have something else before we end it?
No, I still don't really need my wife.
Yeah, before we're at an hour, so we've got Josh and I need to go throw some weight around in the gym, so it's about time. I feel like Sydney needs to shoot his bow. I think that's what he's trying.
I just got this new Bowtech over here with a rangefinder scope on it. It's like the most ridiculous thing in the world. You don't have to use like a rangefinder anymore. It's all built in. You press a button on the side, and I'm touching arrows in a grouping like this at 80 yards. It's insane because you have a single pin out to 80 yards. So there's nothing else avoiding in your sight picture. It's all one dot on the screen. It's crazy.
If you can't tell, he's excited. He's very
excited. I just got the bow like 3 days ago, Nick. I mean, if I sent you one, you wouldn't even be on this freaking Zoom call right now. So yeah, guys, Nick threw me under the bus. I'm going to the archery range right now with my boys.
If anybody on the video, before we end it, anybody have any last minute questions? If you want to pop off mute.
Yeah, Nick, this is Paul Mack. Is Sydney going to provide some information on where we can get in, more information about his process?
Paul, we just mentioned you. We just said your name. What's up, brother? Yeah, man. Actually, I put the link in YouTube. I'll have it in the discussion, and then Paul, Josh is going to just send you the direct link.
Sweet, thanks.
In the app, in the training app, we'll get you the direct link. And you're going to be, if
you dude, you just forward it along. You know what I mean? However you want to do it as well.
If we get Paul Mack on HRT, that's just going to be a scary thing.
In a good way.
In a good way. Yeah. Any other video guys?
I got one thing to say if you guys can hear me.
I can hear you.
You can hear me all right? Okay, I'm at the beach right now, so I don't know if y'all can hear me over the sound of the waves, but I'm 25, and I've been on TRT for 3 years, almost 4 years now. I'm not with Core Med at all. I'm local to Atlanta, so I see a doctor in Atlanta. But I just want to echo Nick, Josh, and Sydney and say that Core Medical has got their stuff straight. I've been on TRT or HRT for almost 4 years, and Core Medical absolutely has all of their facts straight. If you're on the fence, if you're 50 plus, 60 plus, I would absolutely recommend hopping on with Core Medical. I'm 25, had a couple of medical conditions from PTSD that were not military related, but still required me to get on TRT. And there's a lot of components that go into it, between your hematocrit levels, your HCG levels, your E2 levels, and your testosterone levels. And I've learned a lot in the last 4 years, and I'm only hopped on, thank God, in the last couple of months. And I just want to say that Core Medical absolutely knows what they're doing. And I would just recommend anybody that's feeling the symptoms of low T to either go get tested or hop on with Core Med.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. And I'm really glad that that doctor like identified some of the things and like took care of you. That's because that could have been that would have been a downward spiral, and that would have been a tragedy.
Yeah, sure, man.
Thanks, man. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys very much.
All right, Sydney, we'll call it. Thanks, brother. Go shoot that bow.
I will. Don't worry. It'll be all over my social media in about 10 minutes.
Awesome. All right, guys. We'll see you guys. You guys know the deal. This is what it's about. All right. Being, for us veterans, it's about being a veteran. And then for everyone else, it's just about being the best human being that you can be. And just being the best version of yourself. And that's the goal always. As we age, as we grow, we're always trying to be the best version of ourselves. Any last words? All right, you guys know the deal. Never quit, never surrender, always forward. And we will see you guys in the next